Welcome to Ocean Stories, a podcast about the people doing incredible things in, on, and around our oceans. I'm your host, Lydia Carey, and I believe in the power of stories to save our seas. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Ocean Stories. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different because today is Election Day in the United States, and there's a lot of woo-woo, juju, scaredy in the air. And I thought it would be a great opportunity to just catch up a little bit, to talk about Ocean Stories because it's our 1-year anniversary, it's our 1-year birthday, to answer some questions I've been wanting to answer for a while, and to talk about some of the ways that we can fight anxiety about the environment and the election. So thank you for joining. First things first, let's talk about Ocean Stories' birthday, 1 year old today. Here's my special sound effect. Okay, yay! Ocean Stories. We have done 36 episodes. This one will be the 37th. We've had around 30 guests, give or take a few. We have talked with so many people. We've talked with pro surfers like Tariva David and beginner and intermediate surfers. We talked with the people from Charlotte the Rays Aquarium. That was crazy. Those were crazy times. We talked with shark ecologists like Christina Zenato, who is a famous shark conservationist in the Bahamas. We've talked with people who live on their sailboats full-time. We've talked with multiple coral restorationists whose full-time job it is to focus on the health and the thriving of coral reefs in different areas in the world, but particularly in the Maldives. We interviewed the founder of Fish Free February, which February is just around the corner, so if you're thinking about Fish Free February, go give that episode a listen. We've had on artists and jewelers and creative people who harness their passion for the ocean and use that as an inspiration for their work. We've heard the ocean stories of divers and swimmers of all kinds from all around the world. We learned more about what is in our body care products and how that impacts us and our human health, but also how it impacts the environment and ocean health. We talked with not one, but two killer whale, orca experts and major fans, and we even talked to a real-life, full-time professional mermaid. Ocean Stories would obviously not have any stories if it weren't for the people who dedicate their time to come on to answer my silly questions about marine science and to explain things to us. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to the people that have been a part of Ocean Stories for the first year. Ocean Stories is not an easy endeavor. It is quite time consuming. It can be tedious at times. Sometimes there are mistakes. Sometimes there are technical mishaps. Trust me, I know about them. Every single error that has ever happened, I notice it because I am a perfectionist in some ways. And of course, I'm always striving to improve the podcast, improve the content we put out, and to make things more valuable for you, our lovely listeners. So I also wanted to extend a bit of gratitude to the Ocean Stories community, to the listeners, for your patience, for being here, for your support, and for your feedback. I have to say, I have a few favorite things about this experience over the past year, but definitely up there at number 1 or number 2 is chatting with and meeting the people of the Ocean Stories community, this little community we've built, both hearing the listeners' feedback and chatting with the guests and connecting people with ocean topics that they care about, learning new things that people have to say, hearing new perspectives, opening my mind to different ways to think about ocean conservation and environmentalism at large. We've had some really interesting conversations, and if you've given them the time of day to listen and to consider, thank you. That being said, let me know what you want to see from Ocean Stories in the next year. Let me know what type of content you really like to listen to. I have so many cool ideas, and I can't wait to see them come to light. Of course, in my ideal world, Ocean Stories is at least a part-time gig for me so that I would be able to put more time, energy, and effort into seeing these grandiose ideas I have come to life. At the moment, that is not really possible because this podcast doesn't make any money, okay? I actually pay to do this podcast. Riverside, our recording platform, has a monthly fee, and there are some other fees associated with it. not to mention the countless hours that I've put into creating this. It's an investment that I don't get back monetarily. I wish I had all the time in the world to dedicate to ocean storytelling and science communication because I get so much joy out of creating this, which is why I do it. I do believe that the ocean needs more communicators and more storytellers and more people willing to have open and honest conversations, to ask stupid questions, and to be curious about the ocean and what we can do to save it. I believe it's a huge part of the larger sustainability conversation. And so when everything feels pointless and nobody's listening and I feel awful and I'm poor, I try to remember my original passions, which is actually a tip that Madison gave on one of our recent episodes, How to Study Marine Biology with Marine Science with Maddie. Shameless plug. 1 year ago, this podcast started as a duo. It was me and Sarah Hursping. Sarah has moved on to other projects that are more aligned with her, but if you want to catch up with her and see how she's doing, her Instagram is @postcardfromsarah. The truth is that this past year, looking back, there have been a lot of crazy things that have happened. It has not been my best year. We're just going to say that. It hasn't been my best year, and that's okay. I would even venture to say that for me and a lot of other people, I think that it's been one of the hardest years of my life, which makes me feel crazy and lucky to say because the truth is ultimately the most important thing for me is my health and my family and my friends' health. And I think when you put things into perspective and you realize that you have your health and your close friends and your family have their health, truly you are the most lucky person in the world because that's what's really important. All of that aside, it has not been smooth sailing, perfect time, beautiful year for me to have a side project, if that makes any sense. Sometimes mentally this year, I have not been there all the way. I feel like 25 for me was the year of that Chet Baker song, Everything Happens to Me. Do you know that? Hold on, I'll play you a little bit of that song. Okay, ready? Everything happens to me. Okay, beautiful song, but that's kind of how I've been feeling lately. It just feels like this year, everything happened to me. I think a lot of people feel that way at 25. But truly, when I look back, because my birthday is coming up, so I've been reflecting a lot on my past year. When I look at this past year, one of the best things that has happened to me this past year is definitely Ocean Stories. It was your support and our dialogue and just this whole project and all of the things that have come out of it has been one of the best things that have happened to me. So thank you. My dream is for Ocean Stories to be a bit more of a professional operation. I would love if we could have better lighting, if I didn't have to record in this corner of my apartment because it's the only one that's blank and actually works with the light. I would love to have incentives to offer guests for their time to come on. I would love to have an editor so that I could focus more of my efforts on the creative side. I would love to connect people to sustainable brands and small businesses that are putting in so much work and effort to make sure that their operations benefit the ocean. I would love to hear and help tell crazy stories of people who are so passionate about the ocean and have experienced wild things in, on, and around it. Maybe this is really dreaming, but it'd be super cool if one day Ocean Stories had an in-person meetup event, something like an ocean cleanup, beach cleanup, something like that. Sometimes I let my mind run wild and I think that the sky is the limit for Ocean Stories, but it wouldn't be possible without you listening. So again, thank you. Our very first episode was with Kendra Nelson. It was about orcas and it was released on November 7th, 2023. So if you want to take it all the way back, it is still our #1 most listened to episode. So if you want to take it all the way back to the beginning, my interview skills were not so good and everything was different then. We've come a long way in 1 year. Then go ahead and give that episode a listen. It's really good, to be honest. There are 2 major things I wanted to say in relation to the podcast really quickly. One is a lot of people ask me, a lot of the guests ask me, and just in my daily life, why do you say we? Why do you say we? Listen. I think that saying we legitimizes this project. I don't like to say I like to say we. Because even though it is me and it is I and there is nobody else here, I am alone right now. I don't feel alone because hopefully I'm talking to somebody, and I like to think of it as us learning these things together. I like to think of it as us asking these questions, and wanting to learn new things, and wanting to hear the stories, because really we're hearing them together. Because I'm hearing it first and editing it and all of that stuff, but you're also hearing it too. So whenever I say we did this, we did that, I'm referring to me, but also the grander Ocean Stories community. But there is no we in terms of there is no Ocean Stories team. The team is me, myself, and I. So that is the we that I am talking about. The second thing I wanted to talk about, and there hasn't really been a time or a place to talk about this, so I just wanted to do it right here and right now, is that a lot of people you might have noticed on our last season are people that look, talk, and sound like me. They're people with similar backgrounds to me. They are young women. What I wanted to say is that that is totally by accident and not by design at all. I reach out to every month around, it could be anywhere between 10 and 40 people to come on to Ocean Stories. And I reach out to all sorts of men, all sorts of people from all around the world. I reach out to people with gigantic followings and people with no social media presence. But sometimes I go through periods where genuinely nobody gets back to me, but the one demographic that has been there for me and has always gotten back to me are young women. And so we've had a lot of really talented, smart women come on. I think they have amazing, valuable knowledge and information to share. Of course, I would love to hear and showcase the stories of people from more diverse backgrounds. There could be a multitude of reasons why somebody doesn't end up getting back to me if I reach out and express interest in having them come on. Diversity of background, status, race, everything, including perspective, is super important to me, and I think it's a huge pillar of Ocean Stories because so much of ocean issues are about accessibility and intersectionality and all of those things. And I want to talk more about them. So the fact that these stories have not yet been highlighted is not as a result of me only reaching out to people who look like me and sound like me. It is just as a result in this moment of the fact that those are the only people that respond to my emails, of which I am incredibly grateful. I just wanted to take a small moment to acknowledge that I don't search up ocean blondes when I'm looking for guests for this podcast. I reach out to so many people who I'm sure are very busy doing amazing things for the earth and for the environment. And hopefully one day I can have them on. That being said, if you have an ocean story to tell, or you want to hear someone else's ocean story, you have a recommendation for a guest, please reach out and let me know, because I will definitely ask them to come on. I am wearing red because today is election day in the United States, and I thought it would be nice if we talked about some of the ways that I'm combating election anxiety and eco-anxiety in general. It's a stressful day, but it's also a stressful time on a global scale. I can feel that. It's like I look to my right, housing crisis. I look to my left, genocide. I look in front of me, inflation. It's like I look counterclockwise and there's a natural disaster. And of course, my area of expertise and what I tend to focus on are the ways that these major issues are related to climate change. A major example of this has been this past hurricane season. I've talked about it already, so I won't belabor it even further, but Hurricane Helene and its impacts on Florida and North Carolina were so devastating to see. So many people lost their homes, their businesses, their entire lives, and of course they're still rebuilding. And then this past week, the first week of November, Valencia, Spain, had a record-breaking storm that caused a river to overflow, which caused a gigantic flash flood. People had absolutely no warning. In case you didn't know about this, I'm talking about it as if everybody knows it, because that's that social media curse that I have. But there were flash floods in several towns in Valencia, in that region of Spain, and people had absolutely no warning that the flash floods were coming. The waves actually hit some towns before rain even fell there, and it has just totally devastated people's lives. Of course, if you know me, then you know I have a ton of appreciation and a huge soft spot in my heart for Spain. So it's been awful to see there have been a ton of political issues related to this flooding. a lot of failure by the government to provide aid, a lot of political issues getting in the way of actually helping people that are currently without food, without water. There's tons of missing people still. I mean, it's a bleak situation. And you're probably like, oh, Lydia, what? I thought you were going to talk about like how to ease election anxiety, eco anxiety. Yes, I am. Okay. Because yes, climate change is warming our oceans, which is causing more frequent and more intense storms that are causing irregular weather patterns, confusing and erratic storms that are dropping bunches of rain where it's never been dropped before. And we need to figure out how to get our institutions in order so that people can be safe, we can adapt because climate change is here and it's already happening. All of that is true. It's awful to see. I wanted to talk about how there's that thing, that science thing, and if you're a psychologist, send me a message about this. But there's a thing where humans, we hold on to negative words and negative experiences and phrases much stronger in our brain than positive ones. If there's a bunch of positive but one major negative, we will walk away from something remembering and harping on the negative. At least for a majority of people, I think that's just the way that our brains are wired. And so when it comes to this situation in Valencia, people are so angry, and they have a right to be because there have been so many failures by the government. On the other hand, as an onlooker online, because there's nothing else I can do besides watch everything unfold, donate what I can, and raise awareness, I have seen the videos of hundreds and thousands of people from other towns in Spain walking miles to donate, to bring supplies, to offer their physical labor, to try to help the people in these affected towns clean up. It's so beautiful, it's so inspiring, and it's made me think humanity is good. Like, humanity is good at its core. It is so easy to turn on my phone and to just see these awful things. I mean, even just to look out my window and just see awful things going on and to just think, how have we gotten here? I actually think it's like this radical revolutionary thing to believe that people are good and to hold that belief really strongly, even in the face of awful things. What I'm trying to do is to use this example as a segue into how I try to ease my election and eco anxiety. Is that even when governmental institutions are failing, which I'm not saying is like, yay, like whatever, that's still an issue. But even when that's happening, you have hundreds and thousands of people that drop everything they're doing to help. And there are examples of this sort of thing happening all around us every single day, but it is so difficult, at least for me, to focus on them. And so a major way that I want to try to ease my anxiety moving forward is by really trying to focus on and remember those positive stories. Carissa Cabrera, she is an ocean conservationist. She is the founder of Future Swell and was one of our guests in the past year. She posted something yesterday that really inspired me and stuck with me. And it was about how no matter what happens in tonight's election, whether it's decided tonight or decided next week or decided in 2 weeks, there will be millions of people that are still working to make this world a better place. There will be millions and millions of people that are still dedicating their entire lives to helping others, to protecting our earth, to using their special skills and their gifts from the universe to put time and energy towards making this earth a better place to live on. Regardless of who's in office, that's still happening. And it's so easy for me to forget that, because it feels very doomsday. We have created this whole environment online where everything is so doomsday and so negative, and maybe this is just my experience, but I'm sure I'm not alone in thinking, oh, well, if Trump wins, if Republicans win, then da-da-da-da. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be great. Like, I don't think it's gonna be like, oh, it's fine, it doesn't impact our daily life, da-da-da-da. That's not really what I believe. But I do want to remember the large quantity of people that did get out to the polls and did cast a vote for women, for the environment, for what they believed was a step in the right direction. Anyways, this is what Carissa wrote on Instagram. She said, no matter what happens this week, remember that millions of us will be working on solutions for people and planet, regardless, because transformative systemic change is driven by grassroots organizing and implementation. Another way that I think is a brilliant way to go about easing anxiety about this election is to take action. I am not purposely trying to name drop every episode that we've done in the past year, but it's true that what our guests say really does stick with me. I think about them all the time, and something that stuck with me from Crystalline Geyer's interview, she was on an episode called How to Spot Greenwashing and Shop More Sustainably. She talked about how when you feel hopeless and when you feel like what you're doing is pointless, when you feel like you doing that little one eco switch is not making any difference in the world because there are 5 major polluters and they're polluting the world and what you do doesn't matter. She made this really astute and good point. She said something along the lines of, in the face of eco-anxiety and the challenges that our earth faces, would you rather roll over and do nothing, or would you rather feel the empowerment that you get to feel by taking action and by doing something? It gives you your power back, and it can actually just help you feel better about the state of things. Whether that's voting, whether that's recycling, whether that's composting, whether that's going out on an evening walk tonight and deciding to pick up 5 pieces of trash. It might sound ridiculous, it might sound so stupid, but taking action, no matter how small, reminds you that you have free will and you are a person on this planet just like everybody else. And you have the ability and the opportunity to make a small change. Nobody can take that away from you. Your action might cause a ripple effect. It might be infectious. I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but just in case you haven't, if all of us recognized our power to make a change, even if it was just on an individual level, we would be living in a completely different world. Unfortunately, it's super hard to believe in the power of your individual change. That is something I definitely struggle with. The second thing I wanted to talk about was voting with your dollar. It's perfect because it's election day, but I am always saying voting with my dollar on the podcast, and I wanted to explain what I mean by that. Where our money goes impacts what is created. I am not an economist, so maybe that sounded like the stupidest thing you ever heard. But supply and demand, baby. Just think about capitalism. Think about the structure of businesses. What we pay for, they create more of. Our dollars signal to the market what we want. And we spend our money on things that are bad for the environment, on companies that suck, on people that don't give a crap about human health or environmental health. We tell those companies, yeah, we love the status quo, like keep it going. Like keep polluting, keep using virgin plastic, like keep using chemical fillers that are disrupting our hormones, making us infertile. Woo! No, okay? We have an opportunity to vote and to signal what we care about when we make purchases every day. And that is something that eases my eco-anxiety because it feels like something small I can do that actually makes a difference. Again, I've talked about this in a past episode, but if you don't believe me, look at what's happened with plant-based milk in the past 10 years. When people want something and they buy it, they get it. It can be hard to shop sustainably. At least that's what you think. But it doesn't always have to be. It's about making small incremental changes to our shopping habits rather than overhauling everything overnight. The idea is not that you can never buy anything unsustainable ever again. That idea is what prevents people from making small changes. The idea is simply to be a more cognizant, conscious, aware shopper. So how do we do that? Well, when it comes to clothing and cosmetics, Good On You is an app and a company that I absolutely love. They do extensive research into many, many brands. I think they have 30,000 brands evaluated on their website. You look up Abercrombie & Fitch and it will show you how Abercrombie & Fitch ranks in several categories like people and the environment, ethical labor, and animals. And it will give you an overall rating of avoid this brand at all costs. They are literally setting the earth on fire, or they're doing okay. You know, you could find better. They're okay. Or yes, this is an amazing brand for the environment. Good On You is so useful because when you're shopping for something new, it helps you make that decision between should I buy from Abercrombie & Fitch or should I not? Of course, another way to vote with your dollar is to just buy things secondhand. It's amazing the amount of things that you can get secondhand nowadays. I have been shopping secondhand for probably more than 10 years, and it's really beautiful to look at my closet now because I feel like the vast majority of everything I own is thrifted. Again, I'm not saying that when you need jeans that fit you just right or you need an occasion dress that you're not allowed to buy it. because that's the type of thinking that will prevent you from doing anything. I'm saying that committing to small incremental shifts in the way you go about buying things can really make a difference. There is so much stuff on this earth that already exists. Oh, I almost forgot that I was going to talk about this too. Today is November 5th. If you're listening to this, hopefully it's still in November, because guess what? We have 2 months until the holiday season, and there is no excuse this year to not shop and support small businesses. Every year, I'm looking at myself, I'm looking in the mirror, we all wait until the last second and then we order everything off of Amazon or these other websites, Walmart, whatever. We have 2 months to place our orders with small businesses. There are quite literally thousands of amazing small businesses that are actively investing their profit into the planet, into better processes and better practices. Wouldn't it be lovely to give gifts this holiday season, this Christmas, and know that you not only supported a small business and helped somebody's dream of owning a small business come true, but you also put your money towards something that you really believe in and something that you care about? I think that's so beautiful, and I just want you to take this as your sign and as your reminder to, whether you online shop or shop in person or whatever, to start thinking right now about what you want to buy for the people in your life, to not buy it on Black Friday, one of the most wasteful, worst things that has ever happened to the United States. Anyways, that's a different episode. Maybe I'll do a whole episode on that. And to look at small businesses. And I'm going to make a holiday gift guide of all of my favorite small brands that are ocean related. If you have any that you want me to include in that, please hit me up. But yeah, voting with your dollars, supporting small eco brands, these are all things that we can do to take our power back and to make a difference and to make ourselves feel a little bit better about the state of the world. Another thing that I think really helps is talking with others about the world that you want to see, sort of ideating a better society. I think that those conversations are really powerful. Love it or hate it, that's just what I think. I think learning new things and arming yourself with more information and considering other perspectives is super valuable. And just chatting with people who are interested in also making the world a better place can be such an inspiring thing that carries over into other aspects of your life and creates that ripple effect of positive change that we all want. Of course, I'm biased with ocean stories because basically all I ever do is have conversations, but I believe in the power of conversations. I think conversations are pretty much how anything has ever gotten done ever in the history of the world. It all started with a conversation, right? Don't be afraid to talk to the people around you about your anxieties, to express what you're worried about with family members or loved ones, to try to explain your point of view, even when it might be really difficult. If you have the energy to, it might be worth it. When I talk with the guests on Ocean Stories about what I'm worried about, whether it's ocean plastics or coral bleaching, and they tell me about what they're doing or what they're seeing in their lives to work on solving these issues, that helps me feel calm. Even just to know that I'm not alone and my recognition of the problem makes me feel better. This point relates back to my other point about focusing on solutions, innovations, and all of the positive work going on, which is so easily forgotten in the face of the negative. Moving forward into year 2 of Ocean Stories, I definitely want to highlight more ocean solutions and to focus a little bit more on the joyful, happy, and positive things that are going on in the climate movement rather than the doom and gloom that we often get fed, which is not super conducive to inspiring action, is it? Anyways, the last thing I would suggest is go for a swim. Go for a swim if you can. Go to the beach. Go for a long walk outside. Go visit your favorite local nature. Take a little note from what I said earlier and bring a plastic bag so that you can pick up trash. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but reconnect with nature and get back. I'm laughing because that's a meme if you haven't seen it. You know that meme? Like when you're so stressed about the election, you have to like connect with nature. Yeah, that's why I laughed. But I'm serious. I think that there's something to it. I think that there's something beautiful about connecting with the nature that you have closest to you. I find that that gives me a sense of calm, a sense of hope, a sense of beauty, a renewed inspiration to take action, to fight for the things that I care about. So if you made it to the end of this rambling conversation, thoughts on a bunch of random things, then I hope you got something out of it. I don't know what is going to happen with the US presidential election or the future of the world at large. I know we have each other and we have a lot of good-heartedness and we have a lot of optimism and hope and momentum and love and sorry, I had to take a break because I almost started crying thinking about the beauty in the world, but we have a lot of good, and that is what I am choosing to focus on now and into the future. No matter who is the president or what's going on in the government, on a local, regional, and global scale, there is a lot of good. And yeah, happy first birthday, Ocean Stories. Here is to our good future. See you next week with a new episode. Until then, bye! Thanks for listening to another episode of Ocean Stories. Don't forget to follow our social media channels for extra content behind the scenes and to connect with our guests. If you like this episode, please leave a review and let us know what you think. See you soon for more Ocean Stories.